questions and the answers that come from all the beings really begin to build into something which is quite special. As with any satsang or group that gather, there is that group energy that builds, that really facilitates every being that's in that group and humanity as a whole in a less direct way, but all of us here being part of this tonight, it makes it possible for each one of us to take a giant leap forward. So I would encourage you to ask the questions that you have. Don't feel there are any questions that are the wrong questions or that you shouldn't ask. This mantra I've kind of had my entire life is the only stupid questions are the ones that we don't ask, because they just kind of, sometimes we need some help to move forward. So that being said, if anyone has a question or a comment or some area that you'd like me to explain in more detail, or if you're having trouble with some karmic patterns, some emotions, feel free to raise your hand and we can dive into those, see where we can take this session, how far we can get with it. Ideally, we'd all leave this session in a different place, having shared, in a higher place, having come to a deeper understanding of what we actually are. So if there are any questions anybody wants to share, we can do that. If not, we can go into the meditation. We'll just see what wants to happen. Okay, we'll start with Helen.
Thanks, Helen.
Hiya, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
It's about a karmic pattern about my practice. I seem to be in this cycle of having so much work, and I feel stupid saying that because I'm here right now. So already I know, well, you're here in a work day.
How you feel is how you feel, isn't it?
Right. Thank you. And I get up at 6, I start work, I finish like 9 o'clock at night or something, with a couple of breaks in between. And I've gone from like having a lot of meditation morning and night and journaling to like 0. And so I'm practicing during the day with what I have, but there's such this strong dislike for this. And no matter how many statement processes I try and get through, I can't seem to break out of this idea of like, I'm never gonna have the time to fully do this.
Yeah.
The way I would like.
Yeah. It's really common. It's really, really common. And it happens for a lot of beings. There's a point in my own life where there'd been a certain amount of seeing, and suddenly life got really, really busy. And all my nice routine, I'll get up at this time and I'll sit and have a cup of tea, and then I'll meditate, and then I'll read something, and then I'll watch a satsang, all of that. It just was gone. And everything familiar about it was just your whole routine is gone, hasn't it? And because these ideas arise, then I'm going to slip back. I'm going to lose the progress I've made so far. I don't know if you kind of have that same feeling. But if we go with the idea that whatever's happening, it is what's supposed to be happening, and that is even more important to remember when what is happening doesn't look at all like we think it should. So right now, how you would like it to be and how it is are extraordinarily different. And if you really kind of get honest about inside why you would like it to be how you want it to be, then you can kind of get a clue to the motive as to why you're resisting how it is. And it's probably some idea inside that I'm not going to be able to wake up as fast with less or no time to do my spiritual work. Some kind of idea. Can you feel that inside? I'm gonna lose the ground I've already made or something.
It's more like this is the most important thing to you in life, and you're blowing it by having to work. Like, I feel sad about it.
I'd like to suggest that something else is happening, and our separate sense of self really doesn't like this idea, so you might just kind of have to listen to it a few times. But what if this is the only way now for your awakening to deepen? What if being challenged this way is the only way to show yourself just how far you've come, and that you can't lose the ground that you've gained? That this is happening to prove to yourself that your spiritual practice isn't something you're doing, it's now something you're being. You know, that for all those reasons and more, and 5 minutes a day spent in earnest spiritual practice, over your lunch break or something like that, is so much more powerful than 12 hours a day doing it because you've got nothing else to do. I'm not saying you were doing it before, but just for the sake of, for the explanation, it took me a while to get this, but I began to see when it happened. My other business that I had at the time just really took off, and I was feeling very much like you've described. But I began to notice as I moved through my day that I was remembering more and more what I was, and I was handling everything differently. It was just this idea that I've got to put a certain amount of set time into my awakening, or else I'm going to slide backwards. But as you realize what you are, and perhaps more importantly, that seeing has become a being, living as that, then there isn't the intense need for hours and hours of practice. And sometimes the only way that life can show us that is to throw us into something where our spiritual routine is just turned upside down. Can you get a sense of it? You must have noticed as you're going through your day that you're coping with things a lot better. You're not getting as stressed. You're the only thing that's upsetting you perhaps is this one idea that you're not having enough time to do your spiritual work.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is that when I think I do feel stressed all the time, but if I think about what the stress thought is, it's I want more free time for my spiritual practice.
Maybe now your work is your satsang. Your work is your satsang. Your practice is happening while you're at work to prove to yourself in a way that you couldn't do without it, without this situation, that you're not, that you've come far enough to not slide back. And I'm not saying we can take our foot off the gas completely, but one of the major benefits of knowing with a certainty that as it's deepening that this is what I am and have always been, is that you kind of lose that capacity to slide back. What remains of our egoic sense of self is saying, yes, but you've only got to where you are because of all the hard work you're doing. And to a certain extent, that's true. But as the realization deepens that you've always been this one being, that's got to have an effect, meaning you don't need such intensity of time and focus towards your awakening afterwards. It's not something I'm doing, it's something I'm being. And the only way we can learn that as human beings is by being, sometimes, certainly for me, life had to kind of slap me around the head and say, look, you're still peaceful even while you're working all these hours. Can you get a sense of that might be how you're being tested right now, in a way?
Yeah, because I don't feel exhausted by the work. It's very strange. It feels like I'm being given all the energy I need to do it. It's just this constant thought of like, but I want to listen to satsang.
But more and more you find that you're called to find that same feeling that you would get in satsang, that same peaceful, sort of effortless feeling. You can find that wherever you are. And we only look for that in our workplace when we have to. Otherwise we compartmentalize our life. This is my spiritual life, and this is the rest of my, this is my work or my family or however we're doing that. So there's no reason at all you should feel any different. And as you stop kind of resisting what is, then you might find a little bit of balance comes back, where you do have just a little bit more time to do what you want to do spiritually. But really, if we look at why we're even trying to wake up, it's to feel peaceful, to feel happy, to feel joyful, to have less and less fear. And if you're experiencing that wherever you are, then that is your, it's like the biggest breakthroughs are not necessarily going to happen in a satsang hall. They're going to happen when you're right in the middle of your busy day, and you sort of stop and you go, I actually feel really good. Even though I'm really running around doing all this stuff, I still feel really calm.
This is really helpful.
It's very common. It's very common. We never stop and take a look at how far we've come until life forces us to, in some way. You go through some situation or something, and you sort of get through it so much easier, and you, as you said, you're not exhausted when perhaps you would have been before. It's only really this one area, isn't it? This one idea that's kind of tripping you up now. And as you kind of make peace with what is right now, that this is my satsang right now, this busy day, and is there any reason I need to feel different when I'm really, really busy? It's just asking you to deepen in that way, isn't it? It's asking you to prove how far you've come.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I remember that feeling myself. It was not nice, but yeah, it's just another way we're arguing with what is, isn't it?
Yeah. Thanks, Helen.
Very welcome. Any other questions or anything that anybody wants to share? George?
Hello, Helen.
Hi, how you doing?
I can identify with what Helen is saying from a standpoint of being dissatisfied. I don't have that problem of having to work because I'm retired, but I find myself with busyness. And even though it's in the back of my mind, I should be, or there's that
word again. Yeah.
I should be studying or focusing or doing something to make progress, and I just sort of feel sort of a dullness and a lack of motivation that just seems to be pervasive in this period right now. Can you address that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's really good to bring it forward. I'm sure a lot of people can. I can remember that myself, and quite often what happens is that when we first come to our spiritual practice, we are coming from an egoic perspective, from the idea that we are this separate self. And so we might be coming to our spiritual practice to try to get something out of it. If I, certainly for myself, there was, if I can realize what I really am, then I'll be someone special, or I'll be safe, and it will fix all my problems, and I'll feel good enough. I'll feel confident talking to people. Everything that my egoic sense of self had, this whole checklist of things it wanted out of awakening. And some of them are quite subtle. I just want to be respected. I want to feel accepted. I want to feel safe. And the more obvious ones, like I want to be peaceful. I want abundance. And sometimes as our awakening is deepening, those egoic motivations for doing our spiritual practice begin to fall away. There's less and less of this separate someone that's doing it for this particular reason. And perhaps the other motivation that arises as the self, as the one being, hasn't fully emerged yet. It's kind of like a changeover. There was this period of no man's land for me where I didn't really know why I was joining satsang or doing any meditation. Is sit there in the morning to meditate and why am I doing this? Especially if there's been some kind of seeing that you're not actually a separate being, then everything that separate being wants becomes less and less relevant. But this other motivation will come in. Really, we're doing this for the joy of it, for it begins to be, I'm doing this because it's fun, because it feels like the right thing to do. It's joyful to talk with other beings about what we really are. And less and less am I trying to get somewhere with the practice, trying to get something. Can you get a sense of that?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a question that really helped me through that kind of gap in the middle was, why am I doing this? What do I want out of it? And then noticing the reasons that would come forward from the egoic sense of self that I've kind of talked about before, and then asking, is there a different reason for doing this? And it just helped to kind of, or is there a higher reason for doing this meditation or whatever it was? And sometimes that just really helps to shift the from out of this no man's land in the middle of this switchover that's going on. I hope that's helpful. It's very, very common, very common. It's probably not more noticeable for you if you've got more time. You're sort of noticing almost at the other end of the spectrum from Helen, but similar. We've been asked to really shift to why we're really doing this, not why we think we're doing this. Good. I hope that's helpful. Okay, anyone else like to ask anything or to share?
Okay, I do.
Okay, is that Sharon? Yep.
Yeah, it's me
Yeah.
with that face. I've been on Facebook intermittently, and I've seen people that I follow that are spiritually awakened, or I thought they were, and they have a preference for the election. And I would just sit there and wonder, and I just wonder, because would you have a preference if somebody was being? That's something I want to ask you. If somebody was running in England, then would you have a preference on who you'd like, and would you make that known, or, because I still have that. Like I was in Helen's Avery's group last night, saying that I thought that Trump was like Dennis the Menace, and I looked at him like that, and it really didn't bother me anymore. And I looked at Biden as like John Boy from the Waltons, and all that helped me a lot. But, then this morning I went on there, and I have known people children have died from this disease of addiction. And I just got the activists got active on Facebook a little bit. Now, is that something, right away we could say, well, just don't do it. Okay. But I did it already. And I wonder, I just wonder why I even care. Like, where am I at in this process? Just like Helen was saying, because am I going backwards when I have a preference? I really don't like Donald Trump. He is a menace. And if anyone's voting for him, don't be mad at me, please.
Well, I think we can talk about this from a spiritual place. Obviously, it's good to. There is this idea that I find in a lot of beings. I had it too, that once your awakening is deepened, that you just won't care in that way. That you just you wouldn't go and vote, or you wouldn't some kind of transcendent view where you're removed or detached from the world. But the detachment is from the ideas about the world, or the ideas about whichever candidates are, you know, so that how I think and feel about these things is where we're detached from the world inside my head, you know, rather than the actual world. And sometimes we'll be moved from that real place in a very purposeful, passionate way. And it's not your individual expression of the one being that you are will care about things. It will have preferences, you know, there will be, you're not just going to be this kind of automaton, you know, that just kind of sits in a cave somewhere. And I really feel that that's one of the things that we really will be moved to do, is to make a difference in the world somehow. But all that makes you is still there. Your uniqueness, your individuality, what you've got to bring to this planet, to this world is still there. Each one of us has a gift, a unique gift to give. And that starts with what we're passionate about, what we care about. You know, so you might still, let's say there's two candidates, which, you know, and we're kind of trying to weigh those up in our mind. We might still have a preference for one or the other once awakening has deepened, but it might be for a totally different reason. You know, first, from the egoic sense of self, I want this guy to win because you know, there's fear inside me, and there's anger, and there's the egoic motivations are for choosing one particular person over another. Whereas when those motivations have been transcended, it's clearer and sometimes simpler and easier to make a different choice, or even the same choice, but for a whole different reason. Can you get the sense of what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think, you know, what's interesting is I had that yesterday and last night, and even on my walk this morning, and then I was triggered on a personal level because he was making fun of Joe Biden's son who had a drug addiction, and that just like is still there for me. I don't know if it'll ever go away. You know, I'm not going to lie, that is a trigger for me.
Well,
Making fun of a disease that someone can't help is very difficult. So.
Maybe it's not. Maybe the word trigger could be replaced with something more. Maybe that's an area that you're really passionate about. Maybe that's an area that you really want to make a difference in. Maybe that's an area that you really care about because you've had personal experience of it, you know, in your close family. And as we transcend egoic, separate selves, motivations, you might find that you're even more strongly moved to actually make a difference in some way. And that will be, whatever your gift to the world is, you'll be already living it in some way, you'll be experiencing it in some way, but you'll be more able to actually contribute in a positive way. It's totally different to kind of look at one candidate and condemn them because we feel scared or we feel disempowered by the situation. And another one to kind of look at one candidate and say, I'd like to choose this one because it seems the best choice for the country and the planet as a whole right now. It's you could make the exact same decision, but from a completely different place inside, you know, of love and respect and for all beings. And you are going to care about what you care about, and that will probably get stronger as you wake up more, you know, as that begins to be embodied more, because there's this stereotypical image of an awakened being just not really caring in that way anymore, but actually most of them will be deeply involved in trying to make the world a better place in some way, you know. And for most beings it won't be like this, like teaching like this. It will be something, well, this is my thing that I'm passionate about, you know, so this is my vehicle, my contribution, but each one of us has our own unique way to do that, and it'll be what you're really passionate about already, what you want to revolutionize, what you feel could be done better, you know, those kind of things.
I love that. Thank you so much. Because my friend my girlfriend Libby's son, you know, that passed away, and she and I want to work on getting the stigma in PA. Like, you know, our children have really gone through hell with this disease, and so her son passed away. Right now, my son's thriving, but we're both on the same page, and we both are on the same path. And I just didn't know, you know, because I'm always trapped by the failure. You know, I mentioned that in your group last time. I have belief that I'm a failure. So I have to look at that, because I'm not failing. I'm just trying to, I mean, when you live a life where it's like 20 years of your life trying to help your, you know, loved one, it's very important to me that people, you know, don't make fun of something so
That's
tragic.
exactly your life experience, whatever, you know, it's the same for all of us listening to this. Your life experience, whatever you've lived, has caused you to see that there's a better way. There could be a better way to handle these particular, you know, and that's why I'm sitting here saying this right now, because of this desire for a easier, simpler way. And how can we be more effective in spiritual teaching? You know, how can it be simpler, clearer, more direct? You know, how can I inspire people more? All of that's desire is being born out of my own experience, my life experience, and your desire to make this whole process of dealing and coping with addiction for, you know, the families involved, which is often just as difficult, if not worse, you know, for those around. You know, that's happened for a reason. It's because it's part of what you want to give to this world, isn't it? And you'll find those passions arising even stronger from being the self, because it's not what we expect, though. You know, we expect this kind of figure sitting in a lotus position on top of a mountain, but Christ was such a good example of this. You know, he didn't just kind of sit back. He was extraordinarily passionate about helping the world, you know, and that is going to arise out of an authentic awakening as it deepens. Each one of us has something to give that only us can give in that particular way, and it'll be, you know, some way that we're serving humanity in our own unique way, making life better and easier for all beings. And whatever you feel moved to and about, that's your that's an avenue that's going to bring you great joy and also help the planet as well. You know, so you could spend some time thinking about, what would I change about this whole process if I could? How would I revolutionize it, you know, from start to finish? And you probably get really excited by that, really passionate by it. You know, each one of us can do this. What do I get excited about, you know, rather than it being you know, our life experience has been there to help us become who we are, and who we are is the sum total of all our experiences as well as a human being.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That really is helpful. Thanks.
It's good. Each one of us has something to give, and it's what's going on in our life right now, what's important to us. And you might find you have stronger preferences than ever, you know, and they keep on getting stronger until you begin to, you don't even need to know how to move forward with them, just to know that I'd like to, you know, as always, the way will be shown to you as you begin to kind of think about and work on and look at what would you do if you had all the resources you needed to make a difference in the world in your unique way. What are your skills and talents? What are you good at? And and then just to ask, what way can I help people with these? And it'll be a way that it'll be something that brings great joy to yourself and others around you.
That's beautiful. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. Good to talk to you. Okay, we've probably got time for one more question if anybody wants to ask anything.
Helen?
Yeah.
I have looked all over and pushed every button, and I cannot find a way to raise my hand.
Don't worry, Loretta. It's good to talk to you.
Okay. So anyhow, I just like to say in the vein of motivation, at my age now, I really don't have any personal goals or motivations from a point of view of, really wanting to do something. But especially with COVID now, I also have nothing going on in my life because, of course, you have to stay away from everybody. And so, and I think probably helping people is one of the most satisfying things that you can do.
Yeah.
And so that's my motivation, because I really believe that we're all one, and anything that I can do to raise my consciousness is going to help somebody, somewhere, somehow. So when I don't want to sit down and meditate, or I don't want to do something, all I have to do is remember that, God, I might help somebody, and then I can do it. So I just wanted to share that.
It's really important. Thank you for sharing it. It can't be underestimated, the value of one human being awakening to the truth, or to whatever degree they can, and they have. It's all these little points of light beginning to light up all over the planet. I have this crazy dream that that everyone could wake up easily and effortlessly if we could just transcend these ideas that it's difficult, that have plagued our experience, or that it only happens to a few beings. And each one of us that does that, becomes an example for everyone around them, and it in a very ordinary, down-to-earth way. If just a handful of people fully woke up, it would inspire a whole generation to do so. And that affects our own life, obviously. It makes our own life better, but it lifts the sea, it lifts the ocean of human consciousness. I'm really, really passionate about this, you can probably tell. So we can, in making our own life better and more peaceful, we're absolutely affecting everyone on this entire planet. And it doesn't take very many awakened beings to really cause a tipping point. And each one of us can really make a difference with that, first and foremost with our own awakening, in a very simple yet profound way. We're not ever just a separate being waking up. We are the one being coming to recognize itself. And that sends ripples out through the human consciousness. It's you got me started on a rant now, but it's something that's very important to me, very exciting to me, that this, and now definitely is the time to make a difference, isn't it, in the world? It could really sure use some help right now.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear you feel the same way. It's the first thing we can all do, and really the only thing we can do to get our energy right first, and then whatever else wants to come from that is going to naturally emerge, isn't it, as we were saying before with Sharon?
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Try not to get too excited. Okay, so this might be a good time to go into meditation. We'll just do a nice time. We're on 20 minutes or so. And as always with meditation, you can do it with your eyes open or closed, whichever you feel more comfortable with. Just to relax. There's no specific position that you need to be in. Probably best not to lie down, because we end up nodding off and snoring our way through meditation, especially if we've had a busy day. So just wherever you are right now, just sitting and just committing to this 20 minutes or so, just to be here in this moment with all these powerful beings here together. Just this very act is making a difference to everyone, including our own selves. And we're just going to start by being aware of our breathing, just by noticing our breath moving in and out. And we're not trying to control our breath or anything. We're just watching it, being aware of it moving, whether it's shallow or deep or irregular. It doesn't really matter. Just giving ourselves a focal point, something to focus upon. Just giving yourself permission to be present here fully present, knowing that this time is never wasted. Our meditation is always fruitful. There is no right or wrong way to do meditation. And there's no there's no goal here. We're not looking to achieve anything. So just as you're aware right now of your breathing, just see if you can take a few breaths that go a little bit deeper down into the belly. Not forcing anything, we're just allowing the breath to go a little deeper, just to help our body relax. And as you're aware of your breathing, you might notice that also you're aware of these words that you're hearing. You're also aware that your eyes are closed or open. Just noticing whatever you're aware of. Your awareness may jump from one thing to another. It may move from the breath to some thoughts or to some emotion that's coming up. Or if our body is tired or tense, awareness may spend some time noticing that. Just your ordinary everyday awareness, just aware of your thoughts, aware of your breathing, whatever awareness is looking at. Just to notice what awareness is watching. Is awareness coming to recognize itself? I'm aware of my breathing, and then I'm aware of that awareness. Just very simply like that. Awareness comes to look at itself, to recognize itself. Just a very simple thing in meditation. And of course, for all beings, awareness will wander away from looking at itself, back to thoughts, or back to some noise in your environment, or back to these words. But just in noticing what awareness is looking at, we're effortlessly back to being aware of our awareness. Just noticing. Just this simple thing. Awareness will jump from thing to thing, from thoughts, sensations, things going on in the body. Perhaps you'd be aware of energy moving, feeling relaxed or tense. And then at some points it'll just come to look at itself. It will recognize that awareness is present. Awareness is coming to recognize its own nature. And we don't need to try to keep awareness in one place, on one thing. It's really not possible or necessary. Just noticing what we're aware of, Naturally, we're aware of how our body feels. Naturally, we're aware of thoughts. Wherever awareness goes, whatever it wants to look at, it wanders around. Just to notice what it's looking at. And then notice there's awareness. This awareness that you really are is becoming conscious of itself. Very simple, simple thing. We're not trying to control anything. And there's no purpose or goal here. Just every now and again, noticing what awareness is looking at. And in doing so, awareness recognizes itself. We begin to realize that awareness is always here. Most times it's looking at thoughts, it's looking at mind, it's looking at some issue in our life. But it's always present, silently watching in the background. And as we do this very simple meditation, awareness naturally begins to prefer being aware of itself. Naturally, we begin to notice that that feels good in the body too. The body relaxes. Just from time to time, noticing where awareness is, what it's looking at. What am I aware of? Just cultivating this ability for awareness to look at itself, for awareness to we are aware, we are watching. And from time to time, we're aware of the awareness itself. It's a very simple meditation, very passive meditation. We don't need to struggle. And even if we drift into a deeper state, we're still awareness watching that state, knowing it. And just this very simple thing is very powerful, very effective. Coming to recognize awareness is always here. What it's looking at changes. Sometimes it's looking at thoughts or emotions. But the awareness itself isn't changing. It isn't coming or going. Just this simple thing we can come to recognize what is first and fundamental about us is this awareness. The intelligence itself. Just enjoying this meditation for no other reason than it feels nice. There's no way to get this wrong. Just every now and again, noticing what awareness is looking at. And in doing so, awareness comes to look at itself. When awareness notices itself, the mind begins to relax, our body begins to relax. Just this simple, simple thing. coming to see gently, effortlessly, this awareness is constant, that it even watches. It watches effortlessly, and that it doesn't have any goals, that it's happy to recognize itself. Just enjoying this simple meditation. And if awareness gets lost in thoughts, watching thoughts, for some time, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Just coming to recognize awareness is the same, whether it's watching itself or watching thoughts or watching some emotion bubble up or some joy or some peace. Just like this, awareness is becoming conscious of itself, just like this. So, in a few moments, I will be bringing this meditation to a close, but I would like to invite you to stay with this meditative way as a way of being, as a way of living, as a way of moving through your day. Just every now and again becoming conscious of awareness and what it is looking at. Just every now and again checking in, seeing what am I aware of. And even just in doing that, awareness is looking at itself in the most simple and extraordinarily powerful way. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you very much for all your intelligent questions and for being part of this with me this evening. Thank you very much.